Hello everybody, welcome along to the Rangers review for an extra special tactics pod. We usually do this on a Sunday. On a Saturday. I'm getting my days all mixed up. I'm just that excited, Joshua, to be back here with you this morning. We thought we'd come and bring you some extra content just because of how good Rangers' win over Hearts was at the weekend, how monumental, how mammoth, what other
Calm down.
what other word do you want to use to describe it? I thought it was just an incredible Sunday afternoon that I've not stopped watching videos back from and thinking about since it happened.
Yeah, I'm also off this week, so this as of tomorrow, so that is also playing into our. We're giving you the Saturday show early this week. I have watched your video recording the fans for the fourth goal.
The one that went viral. It's been watched over 600,000 times, I think. 100,000 of those might be me just watching that over and over again.
Yeah, but no, you're right. It felt significant, and I think that we were saying on the morning briefing today, there's been so many Rangers games have felt potentially significant domestically, but been a letdown in the last few years. And especially when Rangers went behind, that gave me echoes of the start of the season, that the nature of the goals they conceded. If they lost there, I think that might well have been it. Whereas now, it feels like it's all potentially there for them. So
I guess that's what made it even better. Because we were talking about that yesterday, going into the ground, going, if Hearts win today, this could be it.
Yeah, I think it would. I think 8 points.
Yeah, 11
it would have
games been really hard to come back from
especially because you still need to go to Tynecastle. You hadn't beaten Hearts. Now you're looking at it, and Celtic win late on. But I was speaking to someone just before the game at Ibrox yesterday, and they were kind of making the point of like, I can think of a good few occasions in recent years where Celtic have dropped points, but Rangers have dropped points after them.
Yeah.
And too often Rangers' mentality, I think, for winning the league has been a Celtic needs to slip up. It's in Rangers' hands, because if they beat Celtic twice, if they get then they can win the league, and they can't control that. So they just need to dictate control.
I also made the point yesterday, though, Josh, that we are so long in the tooth of thinking about, Celtic have dropped points, so that'll be a blow to Rangers. It was just as big a blow to Hearts yesterday.
Yeah.
The Hearts fans will be watching that Celtic game thinking, I thought Celtic might slip up there. It's no longer just Rangers and Celtic. So I think that both teams probably took a little bit of they were down after that Celtic result, and then it was, okay, who's going to come back out and respond? And fortunately for us, it was Rangers, and we're going to talk a little bit about how they managed to do that, how Danny Rohl managed to get his tactics right. He started the game with this Red Bull-esque 4-2-2-2, 4-4-2 for those of a certain vintage that are enjoying this renaissance of the classic formation. But it's a 4-4-2 with a little bit of a twist. It's not quite 4-4-2 as we imagined it, and it's a formation that has produced goals. It's a formation that's produced really exciting performances when it's been utilised by Danny Rohl, and yesterday was no different. Yeah,
so I think the frustration on Wednesday was that it felt like Rangers weren't taking the game to Motherwell. Part of that is Motherwell are very good. Part of that is I think Danny Rohl kind of got it wrong. Part of it was he needed to utilise his squad, and Two Romans could probably put in that performance yesterday because he didn't play midweek because he's just come back from injury. But the big difference to me, Blair, was that I think after Wednesday you're looking at it thinking that Rohl has got Rangers into this title race with a point we always repeat, tactical acumen, clean sheets, set pieces. But can Rangers go and be the protagonist? Can they dominate a game against one of the big teams? Can they set the tone? Can they play the game on their terms? And that's a big difference for me yesterday. Hearts changed their shape at halftime, in part because Rangers are playing the game on their own terms. And I asked Danny Rohl about it after the game. Basically, is this how you want to play? He said, I think so too. It's good to have, especially against this type of opponent, physicality up front. We played with 2 number 10s in behind, very flexible. It was great. I think the 2 number 6s, it did their job. So, as me and Johnny spoke about in the morning briefing today, I don't think it was just big physical team. Let's get into the box as quickly as possible and physically dominate. If you also listen to Danny Rohl's press conference, there was a point where he was keen to stress sometimes you need to play the extra pass in the build-up. So what Rangers wanted really to do, is we'll come on to look at, as as there was almost no midfield at points because you had Chukwueze and Raskin basically joining the centre halves. That rotation kind of freed them up, maybe gave them an extra man deep in the pitch. You had Romans and Sterling, who are often the width of the team, and you had Nike Moore and Skov Olsen narrow inside the pitch. That gave Rangers the solutions to build up and get into the final third. And when they got there, as the first 3 goals showed, again, as we'll come on to look at, the sheer presence, I think, of the number of bodies that were in the box, especially for the first 2 goals, counting. So that's 17 goals in 3 games at Ibrox. And I know 10-man Kilmarnock and Queen's Park, but when we spoke, I think, on last week's Saturday show, and we were saying, I think for a couple of weeks ago, it was maybe January signings are going to help address this issue of on-ball identity. And then last week it was, there's some promising signs against Queen's Park and Kilmarnock, but it's Queen's Park and Kilmarnock. Whereas this week you think, we've not seen Rangers really perform like that and dominate in open play against a big opponent under Danny Rohl. He's playing in his favoured formation with his 4 January signings. This feels closer to what he wants on the ball. Yeah,
dominant is the word there. And if we bring up the race chart to begin with, this is one of my favourite charts that you've introduced me to this season, Joshua. I'll give a little peek behind the curtain. I never knew what a race chart was before this season started, but this is a really nice way to show the sort of ebb and flow of the game, and it really shows the sort of momentum of the game. And I think what you can see here is what everyone inside that stadium will attest to, that in the first half it was fairly even. Hearts had their moments, and I think when you seen those Hearts goals, you thought, this could be one of these days. This could be one of these days where Hearts just come and get a result at Ibrox. But really the key point for me is half-time, when Derek McInnes goes to a 3-4-3, something that I asked a couple of our colleagues, a couple of the Edinburgh-based colleagues that we sit next to at Ibrox during these big games. I said, look, is 3-4-3 something that McInnes has done this year? And they went, well, we've seen it a couple of times, but it's not the regular. And I wonder if McInnes has tried to overthink this a wee bit and maybe be a little bit too clever, because in that second half, as you can see from those lines there, when Rangers go 3-2 ahead, and even before that, they were miles in front in terms of domination of this game.
I don't think he's trying to be too clever. I think if you listen to his press conference, he said it was too much. I think he said it's too much of a basketball game. So he wanted more control.
Yeah.
The reason he wants more control is because, as we'll go on to look at, Rangers had so many bodies in the box that both of the Rangers' goals in the first half are Hearts' errors, really. Steinvender kicking the ball into his own net, Halkett kind of clearing the ball back onto Trimiti, but Hearts don't have the extra man. And they also, as we'll come on to look at, don't have the extra man in the middle of the park, where Rangers are creating these overloads with Skov Olsen and Moore coming into the middle. But what it definitely did do is that change at half-time took Braga out of the front line, which was, I thought, Hearts' biggest threat.
Completely ineffectual in the front 3, which was Braga. I think if you're playing that 3-4-3, you need a Shankland as a hold-up man. You need a target man to kind of bring those other 2 into the game.
Kabori was just quite quiet, wasn't he?
He did. I kind of forgot.
And he is physical.
I kind of forgot he came on, though. He didn't really do anything in that second half, and I feel like Hearts almost inadvertently nullified Braga by themselves, which I think he was causing the most trouble for Rangers just by being a menace that he generally is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this race chart shows every indent is a shot, just if people need a reminder on it. And the higher the indent, the higher the quality of chance. So you can see in the first half, very even in terms of chances created up until half-time. And then after half-time, it's really all Rangers, apart from one Hearts moment just after the hour mark. Danny Rohl said that Rangers also changed a little bit. If we maybe look at their pass network, Blair, what you can see here, and this is just average positions, the darker the colour, the more dangerous the player was. What you can see here is Nico Raskin was quite deep. He had Chukwueze largely to the left. That's probably the highest I've ever seen Dujon Sterling on one of these pass networks.
I was blown away by Dujon getting up the park, because I'll be honest, I didn't know he had that in him.
He's fast. He can shift, and he played right wing back for Chelsea.
I think because he's been so dominant defensively, and I think because his defensive attributes are maybe the best part of his game. I think you don't really think of him as like a flying right back, but he certainly showed that he could do that yesterday. Yeah,
he did, and this is why. So it's 4-4-2, but when you look at it on the ball, it's very fluid and very different. The marvellously named Ryan Don Nadiri. Didn't know that was his middle name until this.
This is your favourite fact of the day.
Fantastic. What a name.
He's guaranteed to be a successful name like
Yeah.
that. I mean, you just can't fail being called the Don.
But he's obviously dropping off a little bit. Mikey Moore and Skov Olsen are narrow. Sterling and Romans are the width. And the reason that Raskin is dropping deep, obviously to ill effect early on, is because of this really important principle that I just want to show here, which is what Rohl said, playing the extra pass. So if we bring up, Blair, the image that you should hopefully have on your screen, which is basically all 11 Rangers players are highlighted. You've got two Romans on the ball. You've got Raskin in the back three, Fernandez and Suter, Chigwane. And Rangers are kind of almost in this like 4-6 formation. This is how they wanted to play on the ball, right? So you've got Romans and Sterling are your wide players. You've got Moore and Skov Olsen are narrow. And you've got Chermiti and Nadiri kind of occupying the defence. And the idea is that your two midfielders drop to create an overload, just give you an extra player against the Hearts front two. You manipulate it. And
just step by step. So essentially, your two midfielders there are dropping back, and you've essentially got a four, but it doesn't include the fullbacks. It includes the fullbacks are way up the park, but your four kind of becomes the two centre midfielders and your two centre halves. Yeah,
and the rotation, obviously, rotation is always just to kind of free a player up. Because if I'm moving away from you, I've probably got a second to, and then someone's reacting to me. And it's five-a-side principles, isn't it?
Yes.
The five-a-side principles. But that's like a nice, neat summary of what Rangers looked like on the ball. So you had the two midfielders dropping, the two fullbacks pushing up, and the two wingers pushing inside.
You can really see from that still there the inverted wingers and the overlapping fullbacks, because when I think of a Red Bull style and sort of approach this 4-2-2-2, I really think of those wing backs really high, really like pinning high, almost becoming part of the front two, and then your two wingers playing inside as almost those sort of twin tens, both sort of having that free role. Yeah,
exactly. And what's probably important to point out again is, and Rohl was really insistent in pointing this out in his press conference, sometimes you need the extra pass. Why does that mistake happen with Manny Fernandez and Nico Raskin? Why don't Rangers just shell it forward? Because much like when they cross the ball, they're trying to do it at the right time. You know yourself, if you cross the ball and there's 6 defenders in the box and 2 attackers, you might want to manipulate it, move the team about, create a little bit more space. It's the same in build-up. The reason teams are often playing these square passes, sometimes too often, is because you're trying to trigger the opposition to move forward first. So if we scroll down, Blair, and we look at this pass from Chigwane into midfield, you can see here that Hearts do have 4 players against Rangers 4, right? And Rangers know they're probably not going to go man for man across the pitch. You're probably not going to see Stuart Finlay jump right up into midfield because it's away from home. That's risky approach, right? But this is the right time to play the forward pass. This is after Rangers have kind of manipulated it a bit and they've made Hearts jump up. So then you play forward. Now you see Moore and Skov Olsen. They're narrow. Why? Because it's Romans and Sterling who are wide. So they're keeping the men who might be marking Moore and Skov Olsen, which would be, I think at this point, McEntee and Milne.
Yeah.
They're keeping them honest, keeping them wide because...
So essentially the opposition's fullbacks have a decision to make.
Do
they go with the overlapping wing back, or do they track in field and take the now number 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they do then take the now number 10, then the space is out wide.
Yeah.
But again, this point in the rotation, you do it, you're on the ball, you do it slightly quicker than the opponent, so then they're reacting to you. Then if we look at the next still, as Skov Olsen's playing the ball out to Sterling, look at Stuart Finlay.
Yeah.
So he's not quite jumped up, but he's not quite sat back. He's in no man's land. So Rangers have played the pass forward at the right time. Now they can attack into space with bodies. So at times they got that wrong, Blair. They got that badly wrong for the goal. But this is why it was a nice blend of a really physical approach, but quite a clever tactical approach where you've got the full-backs up, the wingers rolling inside.
And I think that when you have a player such as the quality of two Romans, as we've seen for the goal, the first goal yesterday, the first Rangers goal, that's a nice little interchange between Mikey Moore and two Romans. You've essentially them doing rondos round the Hearts fullback, and two Romans has got all the space in the world to clip that ball in. And as you said, they've moved the ball enough, they've manipulated the space that Romans can sit, pick his pass, and it's across at the right time, as we're going to come on to, and the amount of bodies in that box that just worked for Rangers.
Let's look at that first goal, right? So this first image we've got here, which is like 2 lines. This is why in this game there was almost no midfield. You've got Chukwueze, and it's actually Mikey Moore who's dropped back here. Nico Raskin's pushed forward because it's very fluid, and that makes it difficult for Hearts.
You essentially
to
want
defend.
to be able to have all your players be able to pick the ball up and be comfortable in it in this system.
Yeah, but what Rule's a Red Bull manager who we've not really seen be very Red Bull yet because he's been pragmatic, and all the things I think we were talking about after Motherwell, where it's not been an identity contest so far, because it can't have been an identity contest so far. He's had to get Rangers back into this title race. But the man he was assistant at Germany and Bayern Munich was Hansi Flick, who's known for this principle, which is overloading the back line. Very often what you'll get coaches try and do is get 5 attackers against an opponent's back 4, or in this case 6 attackers against an opponent's back 5, because if you break the line, as Chukwueze does here, then suddenly you've got 6 against 5. And it's this game of cat and mouse where if Hearts intercept it, as they do, and they probably should spring a dangerous attack here, then they can suddenly play the ball in behind Manny Fernandez because Mikey Moore's not a left back in that position, right? But what happens, so notice that you've got Romans left back high and wide, Sterling right back high and wide, Nico Raskin's joined, I think it's Nadiri and Skov Olsen and Chermiti, but very fluid because in this moment it's Nadiri and Chermiti who are off the front line.
Yeah, like you said, this comes with its risks because you look in that frame there. There's no one else to the right of that frame.
No,
that's as high as Emmanuel Fernandez. I think that is there. He's the last man for Rangers. So if they play a through ball there, and I think that's Braga on the top of your frame there. If he curves his run in round John Souttar, he's essentially 1-on-1 with the keeper from the halfway line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the downside of the system.
Yeah, absolutely.
The upside of the system is when Hearts so Rangers lose the ball, Hearts lose the ball. Now when Hearts lose the ball and we scroll down to Romans being on the ball, Blair, you've got 5 against 5. And that's the massive upside of this system, is rather than waiting patiently to get the numbers in the box, you have automatic numbers high up the pitch playing into space. So Romans does brilliantly, plays forward at the right time. And again, then it's the Chermiti header at the back post, which is well saved. Moore hits the post. Look at the bodies in the box here. This is the reason, this is the upside of this approach. Hearts are forced into an own goal because there's nowhere to go, because it's wave after wave, rather than just one Rangers header, Rangers having one attack and Hearts maybe clear, and there's 6 bodies there.
Yeah, you've essentially got 6 bodies in that attacking area, not including 2 Romans who's put the cross in just out the left of that frame there.
Yeah, and crucially in all these first 3 goals, as we'll show, Hearts don't have the +1 at the back, and that's what we've heard Danny Rohl speak about all the time. He normally wants a +1, 2 defenders for 1 attacker. And that's a very Guardiola-like positional play idea, because then you have just that little bit more security. That's why he goes, I think, McInnes to the back 3 at half-time. But by that point, Rangers have scored 2 goals. But here, there's just basically no route out. So you have Chermiti has the first shot, Moore has a second, Nadiri forces it in, and Rangers have loaded the box really effectively and equalise in a timely manner, because I think Ibrox have got a bit edgy, and that plays into the tactics of it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you look at that goal specifically, that was the way you've pointed out there was made by this overloading of the back line, because there was just so many Rangers players there ready to have a second bite at it. Now Schwolov, he's quite unlucky with the first save. He tries to palm it out. I think Mikey Moore, his shot's deflected back out again, and then Nadiri was just willing that ball over the line, and like you said, it forces the Hearts player into a mistake. Now this is something that we don't always talk about and we don't always mention when we try and dissect games. Like, there is a human element to this. There is a human aspect to that. And if you've got the defenders in there and you've got 6, 7 opposition players in the box running towards you, it's going to make you think. It's going to make you question your own decision. It's going to make you act quicker. It's going to make you act more rashly. And then also, like we spoke about, maybe the more general point, when Rangers are playing like this on the front foot, really going hell for leather at the opposition, the fans are absolutely behind them. Ibrox was like a cauldron yesterday. Yeah. It's the loudest I've heard Ibrox out with a European night in years. Yeah. I think it was an incredible atmosphere, reminiscent of some of those games against Leipzig, against Dortmund, when the noise really, really willed Rangers on. And I think that plays such a big part in it, because the players that are the attacking players that are bombing into that box, they're willed on by that as well. That Ibrox almost forced that ball over the line when the first 2 shots were deflected out.
Yeah, and they played with the crowd, didn't they? And I think any game, it's a game of cat and mouse, because you're trying to play the game on your terms, and Hearts are trying to play the game on their terms. And again, in midweek, I thought the game was played on Motherwell's terms, but Rangers very much dictated that yesterday, because they had this box presence, this physicality, but it wasn't just let's just get it up there by any means necessary. It was let's try and reach the final third in it's a risky manner, but in some form of control, playing that extra pass, as Rohl says. And you see that even if we scroll to the build-up for the second goal.
Yeah, so this is Chermiti's first of the afternoon.
Chermiti's first. Again, look at this is after a transition. Hearts have an attack. Rangers do well, I think, through Skov Olsen and Manny Fernandez to build the attack. Rangers actually have more players forward than Hearts there. I think Hearts have 5, Rangers have 6. And again, if you look then at when Craig Halkett makes that mistake, he's not got the +1 because Stuart Finley's had to go out to Mark Nadiri. There's too many players in and around the box. So it is born out of a Hearts error, but it's an enforced error, I think, because of how Rangers are playing. I don't think Halkett makes that challenge if Chermiti doesn't have 4 players at the edge of the box. Because Chermiti's actually trying initially to cut the ball back. If you watch the game back, he's trying to cut the ball back. Halkett needs to slide in because of that. Rangers get the break of the ball, but they probably merited it because they put Hearts under that type of pressure.
It goes back to that point. It makes players panic. It makes players make decisions quicker when you've got guys bombing on. And for all of Rangers' pitfalls and flaws this season, they do have players that are fast. They do have players that can run at guys, and they do have some ball carriers now in the team. And I think that Danny Rohl is really utilising that. And we'll obviously talked about Chermiti on the morning briefings. I'm sure we will do all week, but I thought all 3 of his finishes, he took them really composed. I thought he was really poised when he got into that position, and it reminds me of the Thierry Henry quote when he was asked. I'm not comparing Yusuf Chermiti to Thierry Henry before I start getting heat in the comments, but he was asked, "Do you ever get nervous in the box?" And he said, "Why would I get nervous? It's the defenders who should be nervous." And it reminded me of that yesterday when you looked at that Hearts defence and they just looked really, really under pressure every time Rangers went forward.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, they Hearts have been a physical team this season, but I thought Rangers actually made them look quite small. And you've seen physically, that is, I'm not casting shade over Hearts, who have done, still top of the league,
still top of the table. Let's not forget that Hearts
absolutely
do still lead this table, and they could very well use this as a springboard to go. That isn't going to happen again. So
and Rangers still have to go to Tynecastle.
Of course, yeah.
But in the warm-up, I was looking at Dujon Sterling, who 2 years ago would have been one of Rangers' biggest players, and I thought, he actually looks quite small, just because of the, Nadiri and Chermiti and Fernandez and all these others.
Chukwani, I love Chukwani in the middle of the park. He gives you such a presence. Just looking at that man coming up against you in the centre circle would strike fear into opposition players.
I thought he was very, very good. I thought he was better than Raskin, and I still think that Diomande could feel hard done by because he's been good recently, but now that I think that selection paid off. So Hearts then change shape, right? So Hearts go to a back 3, which I think gives Rangers a bit more control. The third goal is slightly different because Hearts then have more central numbers, but I thought you then saw Rangers, the fluidity of this system. So if you look at, why is Chermiti free for that header? Why is no one marking him? And I think it's because of where he is in the build-up. So this is about 10 seconds, Blair, this image with Chermiti playing the ball into, I think it's Chukwani with Craig Halkett at his back. It's about 10 seconds before his header. If we scroll on and we then see Skov Olsen on the wing out wide, notice what's happening here. You've got Raskin and Chukwani, your 2 number 6s are out wide. Rangers have created an overload here because Hearts have started to put an extra man in the middle with the back 3, so then suddenly you've got the space out wide. That meant that it was one of the few occasions where we saw Skov Olsen pick the ball up here instead of in the centre. Now look at where Chermiti is again if we scroll down compared to Halkett. Halkett's retreated into his right centre-back position, but Chermiti is unmarked because who's went to mark him? The fluidity of a system like this makes that a hard
the
to distinguish.
The 2 Hearts players just inside the penalty spot do have a man each.
Exactly.
They're both picking up players. And then you've got Yusuf Chermiti. He's already the right side of his man, where he's now essentially got a free run into that near post, which he utilises perfectly. And I was a little bit harsh on Skov Olsen yesterday. I thought it was a little bit disappointing. But if you pause it there, you go, there's one place he can put that ball, and he absolutely puts it on a plate for Chermiti.
I thought it was a fine 7 out of 10 performance from Scott, because do you know what he does really well in the second goal? He keeps his composure to get Rangers up the pitch. And what he does really well with this goal is he keeps the composure when he's got a man at his back, when Dujon Sterling kind of slips him in down the line to just keep the ball moving. And it's that type of maturity and those small, sometimes indistinguishable moments that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago in the show. How do you break down defences? You play players like Skov Olsen who are comfortable with it, who know it doesn't always need to be immediate, who sometimes it needs to be that extra pass, sometimes you need to wait for an overload to then attack, not when you've got a man at your back, but when you've got all this open space ahead of you. So I thought there was a maturity to the way he played. And again, then when Schmidt heads home, look at the presence the Rangers have in the box.
Yeah.
Two Romans at the back post, you've got...
So even if that's saved or hits the bar, comes back out, you've got 4 bodies in there ready to try and tap it in.
And you can see that, okay, Hearts are maybe a little bit... Maybe Hearts have an extra man compared to the first half. However, what has that given Rangers? The space out wide for Skov Olsen to go... To drive into space. So I thought it was Rangers had that little bit more control in the second half, and they probably should have put the game to bed before Gassama comes on and takes Rangers up the pitch and sets Trimiti up. But for all 3 of those goals, the box presence, the physicality is what made them for me.
Before we end, this was obviously an incredible win for Rangers. I think it was a necessary win, and one that really just keeps this title race ticking over. And I know there'll be plenty more twists and turns. I don't think any of these 3 teams are going to win every game between now and the end of the season. I think all of them will drop points. All of them will drop surprise points along the way. And I think it's just about staying calm. But for me, Rangers playing that system and playing that way is something that the fans can entirely get behind and entirely buy into, because I think one of the reasons why Ibrox was the way it was yesterday was because of that style of football. Okay, it was a massive game. It felt like an Old Firm game. It felt like a European game because Hearts are such close title rivals now. But I think the Rangers crowd respond to this positivity. They respond to getting bodies forward because they want to win games, and they want to win games on the front foot. And I think the way that sort of blood and thunder way that they approached it yesterday, okay, the minutiae of which might not be clear all the time, but what fans can see from the stand is 5 or 6 bodies in the box, and that's what gets people up for it.
Yeah, and I think it's been a bit unfair to call him conservative so far, because you can't, again, like,
pragmatic.
Yeah, but you can't win all these games 1-0 and say, oh, it doesn't matter how you win as long as you just win. And then when you have a game like, against a philosophy team, if you want to call them that, Motherwell, say, why do Rangers look like they can't pass the ball? Because you can't be everything as a team. Was, but also now the fact that Rohl played those 4 January signings, very clear indication of like this is what he wants it to look like at home. Which is getting forward at speed, which is not passing the ball for the sake of it, but like look when these balls are getting circulated with Chukwani and Raskin and the defenders. It's not to go into midfield to then go out wide. It's not progressing through the third slowly. It's going into the front line as quickly as possible. That's a key point for me. He wants to attack quickly, but he wants to create the space to attack quickly. Yeah, that's why I think Blair said in his press conference he wanted to make a point of almost saying to the crowd, give us the time to sometimes make that extra pass, because it is that extra pass that creates a space to then attack quickly. Yeah. But I agree with you. I thought the crowd, the team played with the crowd. That's something.
I mean, McInnes admitted that. McInnes said
because that's something he's done so well with Hearts, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
This season.
Yeah,
I think harnessed it.
McInnes knows what that's like as well, to play at Ibrox when the crowd are with you and when the crowd are not with you. And I think he would know more than most that when that stadium was turning with Rangers yesterday, it was almost like a wall that Hearts were trying to penetrate, and it was really, really hard for them to turn that.
Yeah, it was, and I thought they were well worth their win. So, yeah. That's all I have to say. 4-4-2, simple, but also not simple.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've converted them to 4-4-2. It's only taken 7 months, but he's very much on the train. But that'll do us for today. We just thought we'd come and give you a little bit more content after such a thrilling win this Sunday, and of course doesn't stop there.
Can I say one more thing?
Carry on.
This is just, if you like these videos, the best way to support us is a subscription to the Rangers Review. You get articles like this at least a day, couple of days earlier. Links are in the subscription. I think it's still £4 for 4 months entry offer. But yeah, if you watch the Saturday show or the Monday night show as it is tonight, the best way you can support is a subscription to the website.
Yes, everything we talk about on our Saturday show, Josh crafts into an excellently put article that is a very good read, and then he comes on and dumbs it down and explains it to me on a Saturday morning. So yeah, as Josh said, the best way to support us here is taking out a Rangers Review subscription. Of course, always you can subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. You can like and comment on our videos. That's a massive thing to really beat this dreaded algorithm that we always talk about. So comment on those, leave a review on the podcast if you enjoy that. Just interact in any way that you can. That really helps us out. Josh, thanks for spending your time this Monday to talk about Rangers 4, Hearts 2. We'll be back all week with dissecting that game ahead of looking forward to next week's game. Everyone, they keep coming thick and fast now, and I love it. I love a title race. I'm giddy at the thought of going to Livingston next week, which is a sentence that's been said few and far between. But for now, to everyone watching, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot for listening.